Hey guys, and welcome to FanCast. We're very grateful to be recording from the historic St Kilda Sports Club, the oldest locker room in the Southern Hemisphere. Join us on the bench where we talk all things footy. We're fans, and this is FanCast. G'day FanCasters, and welcome to another episode here on the pod where we have a proper footy chat. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're here once again at the glorious St Kilda Sports Club with my good mate, Jez. How we doing?
Good. I'm nice to be here. Haven't been on the show for a while, so yeah, bit chilly though today.
It's a little bit chilly. We're in a fully kitted out windbreaker beanie, full jacket and a hoodie.
Yeah, I even brought a jumper today. Like I'm normally shorts and t-shirt kind of guy, but mate, it is chilly. Winter's here. Woke up this morning, got ice on my car. I'm like, oh, not fun.
Mate, speaking of ice, yes, guys, you can see my beanie. It is, of course, the Big Freeze 10th edition coming up on King's birthday. Not the Queen's birthday clash anymore, the King's birthday clash where, of course, it's going to be Collingwood and Melbourne. But there is a big occasion, of course. It is the 10th iteration of the Big Freeze. So trying to fight the beast, trying to fight MND, of course, Neil Danaher has done an incredible job trying to spearhead this movement. You can see it. It's affecting him, but it's not affecting the message. And it's so great to see when you're walking around the city or everywhere you go, you got people wearing the beanie, and it's so good to see.
Yeah, I've definitely left my beanie at home, but I have purchased one, guys. Don't need to worry about it. And as Joe says, it's kind of one of those causes that it doesn't matter what team you go for in the AFL, you get around it. I wonder if any of the sports bets or Ladbrokes, whatever, are going to put a bet on how many people say the Queen's birthday instead of the King's birthday this year. I know, Lizzie passed away last year, so it's still in a lot of people's minds. But yeah, I wonder how many fumbles we'll get on Monday.
I love it. Going by Lizzie. We got a nice little nickname basis. Where was this when she was alive, mate?
Oh, you got to show your respect.
You got to show your respect somehow. We got Pat Rafter sliding down. We've also got Aaron Phillips, Nick Nat. That would be cool to see. James Brayshaw doing all he can to stay relevant. Joel Selwood. Stick to sliding, mate, and not to commentary would be great. But good on you for coming down the slide. Sally Pearson, Meg Lanning as well thus far. Could be more to come, but as of now, that's all we got.
You know who they should get on that?
Who?
Horn Francis, because he loves an ice bath. So get him on there. Show the fans. Maybe Port Adelaide plays in Melbourne this week just to get some money going.
I love it. They got the bye this week.
Yeah, there you go. Come to Melbourne. Holiday in the big city and then jump in the ice bath.
Look, I can totally see you up and about. I mean, your team hasn't lost this week, so I can totally understand why.
Feels good. We haven't lost. North Melbourne picked up a couple of players. Hopefully things are looking a little bit better. Not say we're going to win this week against the Eagles, but the team's looking a little bit better.
Hey, you have every chance of beating the Eagles this week because there's no Harley Reid and Georgie Boy Wardlaw could be in for the Rising Star.
And Tim Kelly's out as well this week. So
is he confirmed still out?
I'm pretty sure he's out. Oh. But yeah, Rising Star, I mean, it's just gone wide open now. We'll talk a little bit about some options that are there, but some commentators, this is how they reckon they put big money on Harley Reid to win because they're like, no, we need to change the rules. Who cares about suspensions or anything anymore? Just let them play and then let them get it.
That's what I said.
Nah.
Put 2 minutes, Peter.
Stuff them. That's it.
Nah, stuff him, brother.
You get suspended. You don't win the Brownlow. Same thing with the Rising Star. I'm sorry, that's just the rules, and it doesn't matter on which player gets it. It is what it is.
Would you feel that way if it was George Wardlaw who did a hard tackle?
100%.
Easy to say now.
Yeah, because, well, Harley Reid's been the front runner for so long, right? But now there's 8 or 9 different kids who, depending even if they have a really good second half of the season, last 5 or so games, memorable wins, maybe kicking some goals after the siren, could jump into the race versus consistency throughout the year. I know you mentioned George Wardlaw. He was one of those sneaky ones that did play games last year, didn't play enough, is the right age bracket to come in. But then you've got guys like Darcy Wilson. You've got guys, I think there's probably a few Sydney players that are going to be in there as well. It's wide open at the moment.
Now, Darcy Wilson's my pick, my guess. Yeah. Definitely thought that he's had a wonderful season to date. I thought he's been one of St Kilda's most consistent players.
Yep.
And they've had a pretty difficult season thus far.
Yeah.
And he's just continued to front up. Wardlaw, of course, he was probably the one that was closest, I think, to maybe at the start of the season to try and beat Harley Reid. But Harley Reid during the course of this season has just been absolutely phenomenal. He's been so good. It really was his to win.
There has been some shocking games from him, though. Like maybe it has been getting more attention from senior players. You know, teams don't want to be the one that loses to an 18-year-old superstar, king of Perth, whatever they want to say. No one wants to end up on the back of the West Australian as Harley Reid beats you this week. But yeah, it's wide open and sucks to be him, I suppose.
Mate, if he could do it to Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca in the same play, he can do it to absolutely anybody.
I mean, Oliver's falling over his own feet at the moment, so it's not really like it's not that much of a. I could probably push Oliver over the way that he's playing.
Oh, jeez, all right, just calm it down, mate. Just calm it down. Jeez. North Melbourne, they don't lose on a bye round, and all of a sudden you can knock over Clayton Oliver. All right, fair enough. But yeah, no, so I definitely think it's given you guys every opportunity to try and win it this week. And I love it, the footage when he did that massive tackle on Darcy Wilson. You could just see the Eagles' assistant's face. Like she fully flinched and she couldn't believe it. Oh, no, that was a big one.
Yeah, I know some commentators online. I think it's Will Schofield, the guy that used to play for West Coast.
So biased.
Will was talking about it. And I think the tackle would have been okay. This is the thing, right? The tackle would have been okay if Wilson didn't bang his head at the end. Yes, it was a bit of a sling tackle, but, you know, first-year player, maybe they can get away with like a fine or something like that. Some community service, you know. But the fact that he banged his head, we've talked on the show quite a lot about CTE, about concussions, about players being injured and then never coming back. Once the head knock happened, that was it. Like, you just can't say, sorry, good mark, whatever, that's it. Especially after Maynard and Brayshaw last year.
Yeah. But there's no coming back from that.
No.
Is there a coming back from this new interpretation of holding the ball? Because we've now gone in a certain way, and I don't know if I like it.
I like it. I think it's great.
Why?
The rule, at least my understanding, is you're okay to dispose of the ball if you have both arms free. So if you tackle them around the waist, around the legs, whatever, the player's got a chance to get rid of it. But the second they've got one arm, how are you going to correctly dispose the ball if you can handball with one arm? You just can't. It's a throw anyway. So take away the pressure of the player of having to dump the opposition, because that's what it was. It literally was, cool, I have to make you not be able to move before it can be a ball up or a free kick against. Now there's a little bit more of, cool, you can't move. It's logic you can't move unless you drop it on your foot and kick it. And they're given like 3 or 4 seconds to do so, then opposition ball, which I think is a lot better for the game. And we saw on the weekend, there were some tough calls, but it really is arms free, keep going. Arms not free, you know, ball up or opposition's ball.
Yeah, but they're not consistent.
Well,
is the problem.
That comes down to the umpires. The umpires need to fix that, but the rule's consistent now. The umpires just need to, I mean, there were some shocking calls. Last week as well, round 11, just like, I hate the fact that the AFL, it's the only game where last 5 minutes it's close, umpires put the whistle away, or the other way with Freo and West Coast, the umpires start revving things up and it's like, yep, descent, free kick, descent. It's like, come on, guys.
Nah, I don't like it because even in our game, all right, I'm not going to deny that we had some good calls come our way, but we also had some horrific calls against us. And the umpires just can't pick and choose, last 5 minutes we're going to put the whistle away, and then just randomly pull one out and then pay a 50-minute penalty for something stupid. Like if you're going to be consistent, you should be consistent the whole way through, and everyone be applied the rule the same way.
Yeah.
Nick Dacos can't get away with getting done cold, holding the ball, but we don't pay holding the ball against him because he's Nick Dacos. And, that was one the umpires missed.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. Just because someone's a star player doesn't mean you can get away with some really blatant, obvious ones. I do think maybe it could have been potentially the first week of new implementation. Umpires aren't quite used to maintaining the rage, I guess, in terms of continuously paying it the same way every single time, because there were portions of the game where in each of the games you'll have someone like, they'll apply the rule from 3 weeks ago and then suddenly switch to one on the day. I understand it's difficult for umpires to keep up with all the changes because the AFL keeps mucking around with these rules all the time. It's difficult for the umpires, but it's also really difficult for the players because you can just see them shaking their heads during the game like, far out. Which one am I going to get? And people are now, I can see it. Players are getting scared to pick the ball up because they don't know. They know as soon as they receive the ball, I could be done straight away for a call that I have never been done for holding the ball for.
Well, I mean, that's been the same thing across the board. There's 2 points, really. The AFL has talked about in the past, hey, we want more umpires on field so we can adjudicate better. It hasn't worked out. Even just going back to the ball going over the line, like around the boundary, that goes over the line. A line umpire doesn't call it. Everyone else doesn't call it. 10 seconds later, it gets called back to the position. So they need to fix that kind of stuff up. But if you go back to before this week, the AFL sat all the players down, all the coaches, all the staff. This is the rule. We gave you clear examples of what is, what isn't. It's just the AFL umpires slowly having to figure that out and be like, cool, yeah, this is how it's being adjudicated. The players know what it is. The umpires are just trying to figure it out themselves. So next few weeks, I think, is going to be a lot better.
I hope so, because it just doesn't look like there is hope with the way the game is being umpired. A lot of
I think it was needed,
non-common sense.
I think it was needed. Like they need. I hate the AFL being one of those games. I've said it before on our show, on this show. The AFL is one of the only games where it's subjective. The umpires' calls. Take a little bit of that away and be like, hey, it's okay for us to make a change halfway through as long as everyone's on the same page, because they're so incredibly, like, the stand rule only came in at the end of the season for the new season. They need to be able to do things. So if a team exploits like a certain rule and the AFL doesn't like it, like, chuck in the rule and say, hey, you can't do that anymore. Don't wait till the end of the season.
Correct. But it also does need to apply. The umpires need to have some game sense. Umpires need to not only just know about the rules, but need to understand how the game is being played. For example, Jayden Laverde was not trying to waste time at the end of the game when we're losing. We are losing. We don't want time to be wasted. He gave it to the player who he thought was the recipient of the free kick. He wouldn't, I swear, that umpire would not have paid a 50-metre penalty if it wasn't for the Tuke Miller and I forgot the name of the other bringing Gold Coast Suns player. Oh, he gave me the wrong ball. Okay, fine, 50-metre penalty.
Yeah, but that's happened.
So dumb.
That's happened against Essendon that week. But that happens against all the time. Their players on field put up their arms. Dustin Martin will do it. Other players will do it. Make a big hoo-ha about it. And the umpire almost feels obliged to give away the free kick to the other team. So it happens with deliberate calls as well.
Oh,
sometimes players will run and then they'll stop and it's like, oh, it's deliberate. Give us the ball. And it's like just call what you're going to call. Unfortunately, it didn't go your way on the weekend, but it just happens.
Nick Hind also got shafted because of that insufficient intent. Umpires, I don't know if you know anything about Nick Hind. He's fast, okay? That's basically his defining feature. He's fast.
Not a good footballer. He just runs
He's
quick.
not a great footballer. He runs fast. When he's kicking the ball in front of him, it's to run onto it, not to make it go out of bounds.
I mean, I still think about the I think it was North versus the Bombers a few years ago. Cam Zerhart kicked it out. It was a shank. Went past the goal line, went past everywhere. The umpire calls deliberate. Like deliberate. I'm like,
it was in your forward line as well.
Yeah, it was like, come on, guys. You know, that kind of thing. Just, have some common sense. Really.
Exactly. Common sense, game sense. You know, same thing with that
free kick.
Do
you think maybe they need to like have the umpires play some local footy at some point so they can kind of understand? Because I imagine they must watch a lot of game film. They can't just be, we'll turn up on the Friday afternoon and do our umpiring from the weekend and that's it, right? They must do some training and game knowledge and rules interpretation work throughout the week, right?
You would hope so.
Because they're full-time umpires. It's not like they're part-time players.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. And there is inconsistency in the fact of they have a rule specifically for insufficient intent of keeping the ball in, and yet they say, oh, we don't know the intent of players if they're trying to waste time or not. It's so dumb, in my opinion.
I
it's
guess
very dumb.
kind of there's always been that problem in the AFL, and we'll talk about 50 metres and things like that now, but where, the player's laying on the ball and then they take too long to get up so all their players can run back to position when the opposition has an advantage, or they don't know who it's going to pass to and things like that, right? So the AFL just basically says, cool, blanket, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, get him off, stop fighting, stop being an idiot. Like it works a lot better. I hate, it happens to North Melbourne players when we might be on the receiving end of the 50 metre where it's cool, we've held the ball too long. Clearly you're waiting for all your guys to get back into position and stop the run of the ball. 50 metre, no worries. I have no troubles with this. Against 4, whatever, speeds up the game and just makes it a lot better to watch because you know deliberately what the other team's trying to do.
Yeah, but sometimes they are too overly technical of a 50-meter penalty, for example. Like I told you to stand, but you took one extra step as you were trying to move outside of the 5 of the protected zone, outside 5, and then you get done for a 50-meter penalty. I think it's a very harsh penalty in some circumstances where you just plain unlucky, for example.
I've seen it the opposite way as well, though, where one team's trying to fake a 50-meter and get that penalty because you're like, I'm on the opposition, I'm following you around, you run near the guy on the mark, trying to get me to bump into him or do something like that, and those haven't been called.
No, which has been
the right call. So some ways it's obviously working. It's just unfortunately that some ways like it's not.
I'd feel like it would be appropriate, for example, where, I mean, if we're giving leeway to umpires to be able to determine, you know, certain aspects of the rules because there's subjectivity, I wouldn't be averse to them, for example, paying a 25-meter penalty as opposed to a 50-meter penalty in circumstances where it's, you're a bit unlucky. For example, you've just come on the field because you was an interchange and it was near and you just happened to be inside the protected zone, for example, or you've accidentally given the ball to the wrong player. Maybe that be a 25-meter penalty as opposed to a 50-meter penalty.
What I would love, if it's possible, I don't know if it is because a lot of stadiums can't do it, but have the guy, the arc or whatever like that, be able to laser point where 50 meters is. Because sometimes it's 50 meters and it's a 20-meter penalty run, or it's 50 meters and it's really 80 meters and now you're directly in front of the goal. So if they're a little bit more consistent with that, similar to, hey, look, is that a 6-meter kick to a mark or is that a 20-meter kick that doesn't count? You know, if they can adjudicate the movement a little bit better, I think we'll be okay. It's not a computer game where, like, you know, everything's mapped out and that kind of thing works out. So get rid of that subjectivity a little bit.
Even gauging the distance between kicks if it's a mark or not.
Of course.
You know, like so many times you look at it, it's like, bruh, that was like 10 meters at most.
Or the worst one is when a team's moving the ball across the back line or other positions and it's a clear mark, the guy stopped and the umpire will call play on because he's trying to speed up the game and things like that. It's like, mate, it's a mark. You have to wait. I'm sorry. The guy just can't keep like pushing it on.
Something else that's being pushed on a bit so far this week. It's been the week of the big contracts. All these teams are now pushing on saying, you know what, stuff this. We're not going to have this discussion about whether or not you want to exercise your free agency rights. Stuff you. We're going to give you a contract. Stick around. Haywood, big 5-year contract he's got in. Maybe Taylor, 7-year contract extension for the Giants. McCluggage, sticking around. I forgot how many years McCluggage has got as well.
2029 at least.
2029. Yeah. There you go. So that's 5 years as well. There you go. Like, big contracts coming out this week. Everyone knows Tassie's around the corner trying to keep onto their talent. Do we agree with this? I don't think McCluggage.
I mean, Kane Corns doesn't agree with it, but maybe he's shut up after Brodie Grundy's massive contract and now he's gone to 2 other clubs. It's a double-pronged sword, right? Like, yes, talking about Tasmania coming in, but also like having to total player payments is going up. So do you try and lock in that idea of, cool, we're going to pay you a little bit less for that longer period of time, and then you can't renegotiate your contract later on? I wonder if that's in a little bit of it as well. And they kind of know, hey, look, we've actually got some extra money. You're taking a worse contract. That'd be my idea as a list manager.
My idea, Dave, don't pay him extra for double-pronged sword. Don't think we missed that. What's a double-pronged sword? Double-edged sword, Jez.
Mate, I'll figure it out. I'll get a picture. Maybe Dave can find one online and put up on the screen. Double-pronged sword. It's like this way. Stab 2 people at once, you know. Barbecue cooker with like a blade on it. We'll figure it out.
Mate, unbelievable. Now, I think with people sort of maybe recognizing the Essendon model, like what we did last year. We paid up for Mackay. We've paid up for Gresham. We've got these guys across the line to come to play for the club with the extra salary cap.
You know what it is really doing, though, is there's so many clubs. See, all of these players have gone and they're staying at their clubs that they're starting with. There's so many clubs. Talking Essendon, maybe not as much, but a North Melbourne, a Hawthorn, a Richmond, all these guys who aren't paying a lot of money. The number of free agents and available players is dropping, which means the ones that are there are going to be commanding so much more money now. Especially if you're a key defender and you're half decent. Sam Taylor's off the books. It's going to be another Ben Mackay $1 million for like a Sava Ratugolea.
Or Josh Battle.
Yeah, Josh Battle. is going to end up commanding like $1.2 million because there's no one else available.
There's going to be a battle for Josh Battle.
Everyone's got the money. Cam Zurhaar, band one compensation for leaving because no one else like has money to. There's no one else to spend money on.
Jeez, imagine giving up band one compensation to get Cam Zurhaar across the line.
It's going to happen. That's my prediction. We'll see later on at the end of the year. My prediction: Cam Zurhaar band one compensation if he leaves. Band one.
Tell me you barracked for North Melbourne without saying you barracked for North Melbourne.
They paid $900K for Ben Mackay. I mean,
Ben Mackay is actually one of the best key defenders in the comp.
He did have 3 touches on the weekend. You know, it wasn't a great game for him.
No. Ben King did a very good job. And I think we definitely lost the midfield battle on the day.
Yep.
Playing up in the Gold Coast Suns. They're very tough to beat at home. We did predict it. We didn't let our Essendon bias, I didn't let my Essendon bias, well, you obviously hate the Bombers, get in the way of tipping the Gold Coast Suns, and they were favourites for a reason.
North Melbourne retirement home.
Yeah, the North Melbourne retirement home, exactly.
Goldstein didn't last that long, did he?
He'll be back this week.
10 weeks of Goldstein, that's it?
Mate, 10 more weeks and he played for you.
I guess.
Exactly.
I get like we don't count the 10 years beforehand or what?
Mate, I question that because so many of your fans were absolutely giving him shit when we played you. All these years of loyal service.
Ben Mackay copped the shit. I saw some people clapping Goldie.
Yeah, Essendon supporters.
And North Melbourne people.
Mate, we were cheering like crazy. Some of these North Melbourne players, the supporters, tried to boo Mackay. That was drowned out very, very easily.
That's all right. I mean, when you're winning and one team's losing, you kind of get the favour just naturally anyway, right?
Nah.
No?
Your supporters just didn't hate him enough. There was not enough hatred in North Melbourne.
Lose 10 weeks in a row, no one shows up. You know?
Well, someone who doesn't want to lose this week, in fact, someone who doesn't want to play at all this week, Dusty Martin, he knows what he's trying to do. I got to play my 300th at the MCG next week. I am not flying to Adelaide. I refuse. Is basically what Dusty said.
I mean, like if Richmond was playing in like Tasmania or playing in Alice Springs or some bum town like in the middle of nowhere, I'd probably say, no, I'm not playing this week either. And then he's gonna come back to Melbourne. Wouldn't you do that? Superstar player, 3 premierships, 300th game, probably his second to last season in the AFL. Surely you'd want to play in front of your friends instead of playing like some podunk place where, you know, tickets are expensive and no one can show up.
The views expressed and the views and opinions of various locations around this great country of ours expressed by Big J here, he's entirely and is not reflective or indicative of any of the views here on FanCast.
I'm sorry. If Richmond was playing in Ballarat this weekend, he's taken the week off as well. I'm sorry.
Look, you got a full point. You got a point. Yeah. Absolutely. He's got to play MCG. He needs to get the recognition he deserves for one of the greatest careers in the history of the game. Yep. He's absolutely going to be elevated to legend status at some point in his life. There's no doubt about it.
There's going to be a statue of Dusty Martin somewhere.
Out in front of Punt Road. Out on Punt Road.
Oh, maybe if he finishes his career in Gold Coast, they might put a statue there and try and claim him as 3-time premiership player, took us to the finals, you know, but...
How legit is that? How legitimate is this talk of Dusty going up to Gold Coast, you reckon?
I reckon he'd do it. I think they need... Buddy Franklin is a little bit different, but the amount of quality and just kind of superstardom that he brought to the Sydney after coming from Hawthorn and winning and things like that, Dusty Martin would do something similar up there. And I think they need just that type of leadership to push them over the line. There's a lot of young kids who would learn about him. And I'm sure he'd learn from a lot of young kids where the best party spots are on the weekend. So it kind of works for both teams.
I'm not sure Dimmer would want that of his great young talent to know where to party.
I don't know if Dustin Martin, like, it doesn't matter. Once you're Dustin Martin, you'd probably just turn up on the weekend and play. And
it's not great for setting standards, though. The Gold Coast Suns are trying to
as long as you play finals. As long as you make finals, it doesn't matter, Joe.
Mate, if you're partying during the season, you're not making finals.
Next year.
Next year?
Next year.
So this year they can make finals. This year Gold Coast Suns can go all out, ball to the wall.
Yep.
Metal to the pedal?
I don't think
pedal
they
to the metal?
It. I don't think they make it. I don't think they make it either. It's going to be close, but I think there's still some deficiencies in the team and there's still players. I'm not going to name names, but there's a few young
Name them.
No,
Shame them.
No. They've still got a few players in that team that, yes, the quality's there and we've seen kind of your Tuke Miller, Andersons, Flanders come through, but guys like Powell doing what he did a few weeks ago and some other players not stepping up has really hurt them and they've lost games because of it. Yeah,
but there's just got a rising star nom this week. So They're clearly doing something
Joe,
right.
North Melbourne didn't play. That's why you won the Rising Star. We've got that many young kids coming through that need to get a Rising Star nom. That he just didn't play. So, Gold Coast, here we come.
He said it with a straight face as well. Unbelievable. The Gold Coast Suns, they were definitely one of the highs of the week.
Yep.
But I do agree that I don't think they're quite yet ready to challenge. I do think as you say, there are some inconsistencies in their game. I thought that was one of their best performances for the year, playing on their home deck. And yet we still came out ahead with quite a few injuries. Obviously, we lost Langford during the game. Turns out Redmond was playing with some hamstring complaints already. We didn't have the big ruckman, neither did they. So that sort of cuts, sort of even. But no Darcy Parish in the midfield.
It's probably the worst time for Wits to be injured. Let's be honest. Like, they're trying to push a couple of games before the bye. Like, if he had survived last week, and looks like he's not going to play this week either. Like, if he was actually playing, they probably get the win.
Yeah, but they were at their best. We weren't quite at our best. And inaccuracy in front of the big sticks was the only reason why they ended up winning at the end of the day. Because we had Zach Merritt, 3 behinds, Nick Martin, 2 behinds, Langford, 2 behinds.
Yeah.
What's his face? Package Stringer, also 2 behinds and one out on the full. These 4 players, 4 of our most important offensive players combined for 0 goals, 10 behinds, and 1 out on the full. You know what I mean? Like, and one of those shots was Nick Martin walking into goal, 10 metres out, hit the post. So surely one more conversion out of all those other 9 and it would have been game over. And that was their best game of football that I've seen from the Gold Coast Suns all year. If that's your best and you get over the line against a non-full strength Essendon team at home with us being as inefficient as we are, I can't see that being a challenging team. If you're struggling to get over the line at home where you are only good luck winning enough games away from home to play finals.
I think, like I have said, they're not going to make finals, but I really do think it comes down to fixture, especially in the second half. And from memory, they play West Coast twice, they play North twice. Like, there's a lot of free wins in their second half of the season. So,
but if you play them here, they can't win south of the border.
North can't win wherever they play, so it doesn't matter.
Are you going to win a game this year? Come on. It's never been done before. A 0-win season. Surely North get a win somewhere. Where is it? Where will it be?
We pulled out a win out of our butt. Like, yes, we did win a couple of games before last year, but we pulled a win against Gold Coast later in the season. I think there's a Richmond. I think there might be a St Kilda. If you're missing half your team, we have a fair chance, but it really just comes down to everything clicking. Like, the backline's looking better. The midfield's looking okay. Cherry's there. It's dysfunctional forward line and the team coming together at the moment. Surely at some point we pull out a win. Or maybe a draw. We don't end up on 0 points. We get a draw somewhere throughout the season.
Well, you mentioned earlier on in the piece that you picked up 2 players in the mid-season draft. Are they going to change your fortunes up a little bit? You picked up Payne and you picked up Teagle?
Well, I mean, Toby Pink doesn't have to ruck anymore at 193 centimetres. So that's at least getting something. Teagle's talked about not pre-season, but interviews this week. Hey, look, I've kind of got an indication where they want me second against Larkey and they want us as a ruckman. So there is potential there. I'm not sure about Georgie Payne, but he offers something in our forward line that we don't have. A quick player who can tackle, who can kick goals. We've got guys that can tackle. We've got guys that are quick. We've got guys who can kick goals, but nothing together. So it's something. They're 2 players that should help us, but it's a whole team thing, Joe.
Whole team thing. Yeah. They're like the Fremantle Dockers win on the weekend against the Melbourne Demons. That was a full team demolition.
Who saw that happening?
No one.
Not my tips, tell you what.
No one saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. Heck, Simon Goodwin didn't see that coming. No one saw. I don't even think Fremantle saw that coming. That was unbelievable. What a performance. Complete devastation.
Yep.
Right across the board. Melbourne didn't put up a fight at all. Their disposal was crap. Everything was under pressure. And I've never seen Fremantle ever look fast in my life. When was the last time Fremantle looked fast, playing with flair, attacking Melbourne's defence, Melbourne getting killed in the midfield? Never happens whatsoever. Kudos. I would tip my beanie to you, Fremantle. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, they've definitely come out in kind of what you'd consider enemy territory, right? We're talking about on our show this week about how Melbourne plays every year in Alice Springs, but the opposition team changes quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was a case of Freo got there early Maybe they showed up on the Monday and they acclimatized or anything like that. You know, I'd do that if I was a coach. But yeah, 100% they came out and just demolished them. Freo's perfect time for them to have a bye, and Melbourne are desperate for a bye next week. So they might trudge along a little bit this week as well.
Oh, I think Melbourne are very happy to end up coming up against Collingwood this week. I think Collingwood have a few injuries, obviously. Melbourne had obviously a massive stinging loss over there. And they're probably happy that they get a chance to redeem themselves on a big stage. For Neil, I think all of it is coming together at the right time, and I anticipate that Melbourne's going to come out absolutely breathing fire. Breathing fire, mate. They're going to be true demons, mate, out there.
Collingwood don't really have a ruck, so whatever happens there, Max Gawn's going to have a big week. I know my Supercoach team is going to be pretty happy, and you've just brought him in a couple of weeks ago, so it's going to score quite well as well.
Thank God. It was so much pain not owning him during the course of the season. So Fremantle, big high. Mate, where's Apollo for this episode? Where's Steve? Oh, Steve's alive, by the way. He didn't die from the gum. We've checked up on him. I've seen him afterwards. He's still alive. Maybe he's not alive, actually, after that Hawthorn win. I did see photos of him drinking lots of beers in celebration.
Got a good win.
It was a very good win. Very, very good win. None of us tipped it. Not even he tipped him.
I tipped it. It was the thing. I got 3 tips, and one was the Hawthorn win. So I'm very, very happy.
Jeez, you're lucky there.
Oh, mate, I'm not very lucky, though.
3 tips?
3 tips out of 7, and one was the Hawthorn win. Get around me.
I was on with 2 Hawthorn supporters, Apollo and Steve, and both of them, no one went with the Hawks.
Look, Hawthorn is very sneaky, and they're going to pull wins out of their butt. It happened last year against a few teams. It's happened already this year. They're on the rise. Similar to a West Coast at home. They'll win games that they shouldn't win. Hawthorn's definitely there. I think North Melbourne and Richmond are at the bottom 2, and then the rest of them, probably Hawthorn and a few others, are in the next bracket, and then you've got the top people playing for top 8. So, yeah, just how it works.
That's true. I think we were right on last week as well, tipping the Blues to beat Port.
Yep.
That was, I think, a really important win for Carlton to establish themselves as genuine contenders. And, that last quarter was just... I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It just came out of nowhere. Because for the first 3 quarters, Port Adelaide were doing a good job winning the midfield battle, winning clearances, and yet they still couldn't pull away. And so you just felt if Carlton could break even in the midfield and start to maybe edge out ahead, that things could turn. Bloody hell. There were floodgates opened and Port Adelaide had a power surge, mate.
Well, that's what good teams do, right? They can hold. Last quarter when teams are injured, maybe there's a lot of players quiet, things like that, go bang. And I know we've spoken about off the air, whatnot, about Zach Williams in the forward line. Another 3-goal performance this weekend. So, or last weekend.
Sneaky little result there for the Bulldogs. They're actually in Champion Data's top 4 defense and offensive little premiership window square that Fox Footy like to show. They are the only team with the Swans in that little premiership window. So, they've come a long way, the Bulldogs. They've under a lot of immense pressure, a lot of scrutiny, all the talk about the coach, Draper, and all the wonderful
injuries
things.
As well.
Injuries.
To win that game with kind of
unreal
VFL players playing through there.
So good. Of course, Collingwood have probably more injuries to some really important players, but still, they had to beat the crowd. They had to beat the Pies, who really have done a really wonderful job in being a really system-based team, next man up mentality, and they've won even with injuries. But the Bulldogs just found a way in that last quarter to establish themselves, and they were led wonderfully by Marcus Bontempelli.
What was Darcy's 2-week suspension justified?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I kind of feel like, hey, the player jumped back up straight away. Yeah, he was like, whatever, and got a free kick. I reckon that should have been it. Maybe a fine, but not 2 weeks for that.
No, the capacity to cause injury.
Well, that's it, right?
Is because he's a big boy. Yeah, he's not
Maynard's a big player too.
Yeah, no, but you can't have someone just fly into the back of your head. You could have got whiplash. You could have had some serious damage even on the way down. Really. We've been complaining for a long time that the umpires and suspensions have always been result-oriented. And it's not the result that dictates how long a player's out for. It should be the action. And I think they've got it right in that this one, the action, it looked bad. And you could just tell right away from the get-go, he's having a holiday.
Well, that's like what happened with Harley Reid
Correct.
too, right then, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. So those were the high flyers. Obviously, on the flip side, Melbourne had a lot of soul searching to do. As we mentioned, they're going to come roaring back into life this week. Port Adelaide, for me, is a real interesting one. And I didn't tip Port for the same reason that I feel about them now. They just don't feel like they are in that top S-tier echelon, genuine premiership contender feel. They just feel like a really good home and away team, like they've shown in the past. Is it because I don't think Ken Hinkley is up there with the best coaches, or is it the personnel? Is it a mixture of the both? I don't know. But for me, it's always felt like Port Adelaide isn't quite up there.
I think that's why this year, especially, they've gone after the free agents. They've gone after your Radagalias, BZT types to try and fill holes.
Yep.
And for the first few weeks, they looked really good. But then you had, I don't think Dixon played on the weekend. Connor Rosie's been out as well. They've got players trying to fill holes and not play to their advantages anymore. Rioli hasn't been a good player for a long time. And yes, there's aspects that have been good. But, mate, they've been struggling as well. Soldo's been fantastic, but is he that impactful? I'm just not sure. There is gaps in that team, and they should have won on the weekend, but obviously that didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. I think Charlie Dixon actually did play, but he was subbed off pretty early on in the piece as well. So they rely a lot on too few, I think, over there at Port Adelaide. Even though they've got some stars, obviously there was no Rosé. He's the captain, big out. But it wasn't like Carlton were playing full strength either. So
no, that's very true.
When you're supposed to be a top echelon team, even if you're not 100% full strength, you're playing at home in front of your home crowd, trying to will you over the line as an extra player. If Port really were the real deal, they get the job done.
You know what they
Carlton.
need, Joe? Those 2-pronged swords, mate. That's what they need.
One into Ken Hinkley and one into... No, I'm just joking. Give me a gig. Give me a gig, Port Adelaide. I reckon the Saints, they got the win.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Saints... Look, the Saints will take any win they can get. They haven't won in 5 weeks, right? So this was really important for them to get the job done over there. They managed to sneak over the line without Jake Waterman and without Tim Kelly in the side. So, plus they had to send Windhager to tag the living daylights out of Harley Reid. And that was a good move. It needed to happen.
Yeah. Because
Harley Reid was just looking at people and just slamming through them.
Yeah, definitely that first half for Harley Reid. We kind of followed Supercoach, of course, and the kid was on 90 points and ended up regressing in the third quarter and then in the fourth quarter as well. So it kind of shows how much impact he's had. People hate on the scoring, but you know what I mean. It's, on the flip side, Joe, I'm actually worried as a North supporter because I don't think West Coast lose 2 games in a row, especially against kind of a harder team. But there's a lot of talk this week. Max King. Is he being wasted at St Kilda? Corny, and a few other people are saying, hey, trade him off, get a pick, do something.
Yeah.
I love him at North Melbourne, but for a guy that was supposed to be the one that brought Ben King across the line, bring your brother to come play at St Kilda, you're a lot better. Is he being wasted, or is it kind of just poor form that's, I haven't seen much from him. There's no 5-goal hauls like he's used to having.
And the reason why you're saying that, and the reason why you're asking that question is because all of a sudden the St Kilda forward line came alive.
Yeah.
The St Kilda team scoring came alive when there was no King out there on the field. I don't think it's King's fault, and I don't think King is a bad player. I do like to say good players don't become shit overnight.
Yeah.
And he is a good player, all right? The thing is that it's very similar to us when we didn't have 2-meter Peter in the team. When you got these big, tall, I suppose,
targets.
beacons and targets that you just shapes everything up, it becomes very obvious and it becomes very predictable where you're going to go inside forward 50. Now, that can be of benefit because it gives structure to your team and everyone's on the same page. But at the same time, it also gives the opposition sort of an easy way for them to structure up themselves.
Yep.
And when you're up against a really good defensive team like the Eagles have had their problems, but it's never been from their backline.
Yeah, McGovern went big.
You know, yeah.
They intercept marks, 200
Exactly.
centimetres, you know.
So they've got some great defenders over there at the Eagles, and it was a great matchup for them because they know exactly where things are going to go. King is overwhelmingly the number one targeted player for the Saints. He goes out. Where are they going to go?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not that King himself is bringing them down. It's the way that they play with him in the team, making it too obvious. And that is something that they have to overcome. They have to get used to playing and using him correctly. Maybe as a decoy. Maybe go to Membry a bit more. Maybe go to Kama more. Caminiti. You know, maybe you need to change things up because right now they are wasting him, in my opinion. I agree with you. The Saints need him to play and play well, but as long as they continue to play the way that they have been, they're not going to get the best out of him. And if they don't get the best out of him, they're not going to perform as well, and they're going to continue to be mired with mediocrity. So, Ross, you got to be a boss, and you got to come up with a new way of moving the ball forward for your team's sake. This was just a quick sugar fix because you threw the Eagles off the ball and changing the way you move because King wasn't out there. But for the St Kilda Football Club to win the premiership at one point, they need King and they need him firing, is my opinion.
I don't think they make top 8 this year, Joe.
Neither.
Yeah, bit of a tough one for the fans. After kind of pushing for finals, playing finals, I know our producer here is a bit of a Saints fanatic as well, and red, white and black, just not going to do it this year. Adelaide, the team that almost made finals because of a dodgy call. I mean, they say dodgy call. I call it the 13 behinds that happened during the game. But what's happened to Adelaide? Their forward line's not working. Their back line's not working. They picked up a few mid-season draftees, but, mate, they should not have lost this week against Hawthorn. It's,
They're so flat.
What? Like, is Rankin the only good player in that team? Like, what's happened when he doesn't play? There's just no engine. I know Dawson was out and it kind of hurt them a little bit.
No, he was playing.
But
Crouch. He was playing with a foot problem, though.
Yeah, I know. But, like, he obviously wasn't up to his bets. And now Crouch is out as well. Is it just, like, bye-bye time for them?
Again, I put that as a coaching issue.
Players being injured is a coaching issue?
No, not players being injured. It's when you got injuries, you have to be creative. And from injury, from adversity comes opportunity. And Nix needs to be more switched on the ball, tactical. Put Rochelle on the ball. If you don't have X factor, you don't have bounce, speeds coming out, give Saligo more responsibility. Give Rochelle more responsibility. Don't keep these slow. All right, you moved Laird out. Sure. But what have you replaced him with? You needed speed. You needed to attack the game. You needed to take the game on, and they didn't. And again, I put that onto the coach. The coach has let them down, I think, a couple of times. Even talking about, for example, like that Tom Stewart. Oh, we're gonna put time into Tom Stewart. We can't. He has the record intercept marks because they kept giving the ball to him. Like, I just think that, again, like sort of like a Hinkley. I think Nix is up there. I think he was there to help them with the rebuild, and I think same thing with Fagan even as well. Like, there are some coaches that I think are good, solid coaches, but are they the ones like the Sam Mitchells, like the geniuses? Are they the ones? I'd put Voss up there as one of the great coaches as well. Fly, 100%, without question. Longmire. I just don't think that some of these teams... Look, Brad Scott's... I wouldn't put him up there, obviously. I think I put Brad Scott in the same tier as like the Knicks type, you know, and the Fagan types. But he needs a good list. I think Knicks has a pretty good list. Just needs to make more out of it. Give Rochelle more midfield time.
Well, they were talking about that in the media this week, right? About Rochelle, I think, only had 2 CBAs in the whole game. Like, he's a like for Rankin. Obviously a worse player, but they were talking about our stuff and then, 2 CBAs. Get your players playing.
And on that note, guys, we'll have a little break. We'll see you on the flip side. All right. Jeez. I'm not a teacher, so I don't know how to write on whiteboards. So excuse my handwriting. It's going to be disgusting. But I hope you get the general picture of what I'm trying to go with. I'm going to go with the Sydney Swans at number 1 to end the season. They're by far and away the best team in it. No doubt about it. the way they're profiled right now, no one is even close. Second on the ladder, pains me to do this, got the Carlton Blues in there. I think Carlton have had a very tough run so far. They've had some injuries. They're getting players back. The opposite of us, we're losing players on a regular basis. Carlton are getting players back. They got a great run home because they've had a tough start to the season. So I can see Carlton finishing with a flurry. Third, Collingwood. You can't discount these guys. They're going to get players back for the back half of the season, and they're the reigning premiers for a reason. So Collingwood finishing top 4. This one is a bit of a surprise, come out of nowhere. I got the Fremantle Dockers finishing 4th. How in the world is this happening? Because they're playing good football and they're great defensively. They're moving the ball faster. They've got Treacy and Amos, who are both playing wonderfully in the forward line. They've been missing some speed around the ball. Bringing back Switkowski, for example, has been of massive importance. If they can stay fit and healthy, they've also got some great movement coming off halfback with Ryan and Clark. So Fremantle, I think, especially off the back of last weekend, when they smashed Melbourne, I reckon they're possible that you put them as favourites against everybody basically at home, I would imagine. I got the Giants in 5th. I still haven't given up on the Orange Tsunami. I do think that they're capable at their best of beating anybody, especially when they get some really important players back from injury. We're talking about Kelly and Cogs, for example, both really important cogs in the midfield mix. 6th, I've got Melbourne. Haven't fully discounted this mob out yet. Too many players are still in the prime of their career, and when they get Lever back, obviously their defence will surely improve. So I think Melbourne, too hard to pass up. I've got the Bombers finishing in 7th place. I think we've had a wonderful start to the season. I think we've banked in enough wins where if we win the winnable ones from here on out, we should still make finals. A lot of this really just that latter position just purely based on the fact that we've won so many at the start of the season. A bit like St Kilda last year, how they started off really hot and that was enough to get them over the line at the end. I think we're going to be the Saints of this year. Make finals from a good start and then drop out early on, unfortunately. And I got the Western Bulldogs in 8th place. I think the Dogs are doing a lot of good. They're beating some... they've won against the team that they're supposed to beat, but they've also won some good games. They beat the Pies and they beat the Giants. So on their day, they can beat just about anybody. And when they've got a full side, that's the reason why Bevo has been under so much scrutiny, because their list is actually quite good. And when it all comes together, then they're capable of upsetting anybody on their particular day. So that's why I've got the Doggies in 8th place. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about my top 8. Have I lost the plot or am I a mad genius?
There's one team from this list, Joe, that is currently in 3rd place, has a player that probably has his last season in the AFL that you have not put in your list at all.
Who?
We're talking Geelong.
Yeah.
Where is Geelong?
They're not
Geelong,
making it.
surely, with the Twin Towers up forward, yes, the ruck situation's a bit iffy, but with the Twin Towers, with Stewart, with all the kids still playing well, they're not even here.
Who comes out for Geelong?
Oh, mate, someone's coming out for Geelong.
Who? Give me a name.
Well, one of these, who's pushing Geelong out? That's the big question.
All of them. Freo, I think, are the risers. I reckon Freo kick him out. Freo's playing better football than Geelong. Geelong are washed.
Well, out of the top, so I'm going to do mine after this, right?
Yes.
But out of the top 8 now, you've got 3 teams that are currently not in the top 8, in the Dogs, in Melbourne, and Collingwood. You think those 3 teams are going to kick out 3 of the current players? You reckon it's going to be, first few games are crap at the start of the season. That's why they're in the bottom half, and then the second half, they're just going to smash it?
Gold Coast aren't finishing 8th. Gold Coast are 8th, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't have the memory top of my head of where they are.
Yeah,
but I think Gold Coast are 8th. I don't think Gold Coast stay in the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is in the 8 right now?
Who else? Looking at my list, GWS is there.
Yeah.
Carlton, Freo, Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I don't have Port making it.
Yep.
That's probably, I think Port not making it is a bigger call than Geelong not making it. That one I must admit to. But
Geelong,
the thing
Port
is,
Adelaide and Gold Coast, I think, are the 3.
Yeah, Gold Coast aren't making it. I think Geelong are too old now. Yes, they got the Twin Towers, but the Tomahawk Father Time is undefeated and he will always be undefeated, unfortunately. Yeah. So as great of a career that Tomahawk has had, I just can't see him maintain the rage now. And even someone like Stewart, he just isn't giving us the same Tom Stewart that we know and love. Maybe there's possible that there's still upside left with this Geelong team, but they're losing games at home now. And that normally, those were games that you would just pencil in.
Yep.
And that would be enough to get them playing finals.
Well, it's like Brisbane as well.
Exactly, like Brisbane. So I don't have Brisbane making it. And I think it's because, again, they're just too inconsistent. They're not winning away from home. And they've lost already quite a few at home. I just can't see them finishing higher than any of these other teams at the moment. And Port Adelaide probably would be the biggest shock disappointment of them all to not make it, because I just don't think, I think they haven't won enough, and I don't think they will win enough compared to a Giants, compared to a Fremantle. They might maybe beat out the Dogs. Maybe if we continue getting more injuries throughout the season and we just completely fall off because we run out of players to play,
or
then maybe
or something.
Or suspension. But yeah, I think this is my 8.
In your world, hypothetically, if Port doesn't make it, does Hinkley get sacked at the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if Port don't make it to finals this year with all of their recruiting that they did in the off season, then yeah, I think Ken's gone for sure.
Cool.
All right, now it's your turn.
So, I've got my current top 8 here, and before you guys see my top 8,
okay.
Joe is not a lawyer. He doesn't write on a whiteboard. You know how good his handwriting was. In my job, sometimes I write on whiteboards, and my handwriting's a lot worse. So I've got my top 8 here. There's a few names along the board that I think are there, but there's definitely some names that Joe didn't have on the list. Starting off with Sydney as number 1. Now,
shock horror.
I was contemplating another team coming in and pushing Sydney out, but them being 2 games ahead, they're going to lose 1 or 2 games across the season. But the people below them are also going to lose 1 or 2 games across the season. So I think they get on potentially on percentage or like 1 win ahead. It's not going to be them winning every single game of the season because teams just have up and down games. Carlton is number 2. As Joe says, Carlton are just very strong. And, Carlton are winning games even without Chera in the team. They've still got a few key players to come back. Surely their small forwards come in and actually start doing some stuff. And, another spine, another 2-pronged attack, as I like to say. Freo as number 3, as Joe says. I'm not sure fixture-wise what it's looking like, but if they play a few more games at home and they beat, like, the Marvel, the Melbourne curse, the best thing about Freo is they play on a ground that is effectively the same size as the MCG. So when they go to Melbourne, similar to West Coast, when they go to Melbourne, they might not have the home ground advantage, but they know the size. It's not like, now we're playing on a smaller ground and we've got to change our kind of feelings and the way we play. Luke Ryan is carrying them to a maybe not a premiership, but carrying them to the finals this year. Now, I think this is one where we do a little bit different. GWS I've put as 4th. Now, yes, they do have some players coming back, but Hogan, Brown, Cadman through that forward line, mate, there's too many options. And they only seem to lose, similar to a Bulldogs, they only seem to lose when 2 or 3 of those players go down, and then the smalls can't carry them. Depending on fixture, 4th place, 100%. Collingwood is one who I have coming from the bottom 8, or, bottom 8 at the moment, jumping back in. I think they do have a few players coming back from injuries, yes, but I think it's going to be a bit of a tough run for them, and they're still relying a little bit on the young kids. They haven't had as much player movement, but I think McStay being out and them kind of not having the best forward line has meant that, like, goal kicking in front of goal is still there, and they're relying on Myercheck a little bit too much. So that's kind of why I think you had them in the top 4, right? And I've got them just outside the top 4. So, I expect them to jump back in. They know what they're doing, but maybe not as high. Geelong is one who I spoke about as being in top. I think Paddy Dangerfield kind of comeback tour. They're going to play a finals. They're going to try and do what they're going to do and, give him that last hurrah. Selwood got a premiership in his last year. I think Dangerfield's probably in a similar position as well. So, yeah, I really hope that he comes through. Essendon, I have at 7th. I think, yes, fantastic, as you say, Joe. Currently 2nd on the ladder. they will lose a few more games. I think the fixturing has been a little bit easier along the way, maybe, and they might be playing some harder teams, so that's them. Now, 8th on the ladder was really, really tough. I had Gold Coast there. I had Bulldogs there. I had a few other teams, guys who I thought maybe around the mark. I didn't go for Gold Coast. I think that they have a few more players. I know we talked about Jake Rogers in Supercoach, a few of these guys maybe not being up to the standard yet. I think there's too many of those guys. Doggies will pull it out of their butt. They've had so many injuries, missing the midfield. Bevo, he goes crazy with the magnets, but sometimes it works. And, I think that he just has them scraping in the 8th. And we're going to have another season, 2025, of Bevo being an AFL coach, because if he doesn't make finals, I reckon he's gone, similar with Hinkley in your predictions there.
You're really banking on a 35-year-old Paddy Dangerfield bringing Geelong into finals.
Well, it really just depends on what their fixture's like, right? If Geelong's playing a North Melbourne, if they're playing a West Coast with not many people, if they're playing some of these teams that can't handle the two-pronged towers, I think they're fair shout to win some games. They do have a few players coming back. They picked up some more stars. Their VFL team's very good. They've got depth. So as long as they can fix this ruck situation, maybe Conway plays the entire rest of the season, I can see them. They're currently what? Let me just quickly check. They're currently 3rd on the ladder.
Yeah.
If you're going to fall down to 7th, Geelong's going to fall down, but I don't see them missing the final. Like, categorically, I think they've got, 11 or 12 games left of the season. They've got to lose like 6 of those games not to be in the finals. I just don't see it happening. I
just don't think with their midfield mix as they currently stand, that they're going to be able to...
Max Holmes carrying them to the promised land this year.
Yeah, I think the difference between Geelong and all these other teams here is that the Geelong, I feel like, are going to be relying on individual acts of brilliance and heroics from certain players. But Sydney as a team, as a collective, unreal. Carlton together, unreal. Fremantle building a very strong backline plus midfield. Giants, the Orange Tsunami. We know who they are. Collingwood. I know Collingwood don't have the best forward line. They didn't have the best forward line last year and still managed to win the flag. They didn't have McStay. They had Billy Frampton playing as a defensive forward, and he's never done that in his life. Myercheck was really the only main guy there. So they can do it. They've got an upgrade. Lockie Schultz is in instead of a Jack Ginnivan. So I think Collingwood, even with their not as great forward line, they're still capable of making it in for sure. And that's why we got them in the 8. Essendon, I don't think we're relying on individuals anymore. I think we're starting to build a cohesive team and not just relying on Zach Merritt, because Zach Merritt, he started off hot and has sort of reduced in output compared to the other players. And that's because we're starting to build a cohesive team. And the Bulldogs, they've got individual stars like the Bont, for example, but they do have quite a decent team and they play a contested style of game, capable of going fast. Bevo, as you say, can do crazy things. So I think in terms of all these other teams, I feel like the team as a whole is better, whereas Geelong still relies on old aging stars, which I think won't be able to maintain that same output moving forward.
Let's pull up Geelong's next few matches, right? If I go filter team Geelong, which of these games do you think Geelong loses? Obviously, Geelong versus Sydney, Geelong probably loses. Geelong versus Carlton,
Geelong probably loses.
Does Geelong beat you guys?
No.
Okay. Does Geelong beat Hawthorn? Probably. Yeah, okay, cool. Geelong 50-50 against...
No, Collingwood wins. Collingwood wins for sure.
All right. Geelong versus Bulldogs.
I reckon the Bulldogs win.
Geelong versus North Melbourne. Geelong wins. Yep. Cool. Yep. Geelong versus Adelaide. Geelong probably at GMHBA.
Oh, yeah, probably
Geelong. Geelong wins. Geelong versus Freo in Freo.
Freo.
Yeah, cool. And then Geelong versus St Kilda. I think Geelong wins. And then Geelong versus West Coast.
Okay, Geelong.
So we have Geelong effectively winning half of their last games. So in that sense, Geelong should still make the top 8.
How many wins have they got right now?
Geelong have 32 divided by 4, so they have
8.
So Geelong probably needs
plus 5?
5 or 6?
5 or 6?
Yeah.
Could be enough to sneak in, but I think this season, 13 might not be enough.
Maybe, we'll see. We'll see how dominant like a Sydney and a few of like the top echelons are. But I could see them still sneaking in.
They could sneak in, but they could very easily drop. They could lose to St Kilda.
Maybe Scott pays off a couple of umpires and say, hey, come back here. Let's go.
They could lose to St Kilda.
Back to back.
Yeah. They could lose. Yeah. Who was another game that we gave them? They could lose to Adelaide.
But I could really see, like, we discount their young kids through the middle and things like that. I do think that at some point, everything's going to start clicking. And yes, the players are getting older, but the young kids are going to start to step up. And we see that, especially in Supercoach, like Tom Stewart not being as effective because he doesn't have to be. Holmes and Guthrie and SDK taking a few of those points and what would be his touches. I think that's going to start happening a bit more. I'm
just surprised that you have more faith in Geelong than you do in Melbourne. You don't have Melbourne in your A.
Well, Melbourne's midfield's having trouble. Their forward line's having trouble. I think you've got too many of those elements that.
But their back line's better.
Well, of course,
than Geelong's.
You've got May and Lever, plus Harrison Petty, but how it is. It's better across a couple of spots. Max Gawn might carry games by himself, but I think there's a few too many. And Melbourne are a lot further back in the ladder. Like Melbourne to make finals have to win more than half their games versus a Geelong that only have to lose half their games to stay in. So it's a bit of a difference.
Fair enough. All right. So those were our overall predictions for the season yet to come. We'll look a bit shorter now. We're looking at this week's round of tipping. Now, I got 5 tips out of the 7 last week, which I'm pretty damn happy with, if I might say so myself.
I only got 3.
You only got the 3 last week, so...
I swear there was a glitch in the system.
That's who you listen to. Who do you listen to? 3 or 5? Who do you listen to?
I pressed a couple. I mean, I beat you most weeks, so that's all right.
Wait, how many tips are you on this year?
I don't know. We'll have to check.
You can't just say I beat you most weeks and then don't know how many tips you got right.
I can say what I want. It's okay.
Fair enough. All right. So we get to Thursday night football at Adelaide Oval. It is the Crows, of course, hosting the Richmond Tigers.
Yep.
Hard to tip Tigers at this point. Sure, it's got to be Adelaide at home, right?
Yeah, no, I think so as well. I think hopefully Nix fixes out some of his issues. They are playing at home. They're a different beast at home. When they have to play away, 50% chance they're going to lose. I think they win this one.
No Dusty Martin either, obviously, makes it very difficult. They got their eyes on next week. They got their eyes on the 300th next week.
I'd love to see the stats on how many Richmond fans bought tickets because they thought this was going to be Dusty's 300th and now have to try and refund it.
Mate, they don't even travel to Marvel. Why would they travel to Adelaide? There's no soul there, apparently. So we move to Friday night football. The Dogs hosting the Brisbane Lions at Marvel Stadium. I'm going to go with the Doggies.
I think so as well, but I think it's going to be a closer game. No Norton, no Sam Darcy. I don't know who comes in and be's that kind of third tall or second tall even that they need in that forward line. Jamara can't cover everything. And I think they're going to play a smaller game, which might favour Brisbane a little bit more. We'll wait and see. But missing Darcy's a huge out for them.
That's true. I didn't take
because now it's Jamara on Andrews versus like 3 players on Andrews. So yeah,
could be more Bontempelli forward. You reckon?
We'll see. Probably. Depends on who comes into the midfield, but probably maybe kicks a few goals. Good for
you know what? I changed my tip. Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, I think I've got Brisbane. We'll see. Brisbane's got a good like home crowd that might.
What do you mean? You think Brisbane? You said Bulldogs a second ago. He changed it after I said it. He changed it.
All right, Bulldogs. We'll go one each. I'll go Bulldogs. Joe can go Brisbane. We're happy. Move on.
It's unbelievable what the hell's happening right now. All right, Saturday afternoon. It's the Hawkers are hosting the Giants at UTAS.
Yep.
Launceston, I'll let you go first.
I really like the Hawks here. Hawks in Tasmania are a different beast. They've got a lot of fans down there, and the Hawks have been on fire. Like, I don't think many people would have picked them to beat Adelaide. Obviously, Adelaide's deficiencies and whatnot. And I think they're going to have a similar outcome. Whitfield might get tagged. Depends on who McGuinness goes on. GWS, we've spoken about them making the top 8, but they've got a few players coming back. No Buckley, no Ash still. I think Sicily has a fun weekend, and I'm picking Hawthorn. Bit of an upset.
Yeah, it would be. I do like where you're coming from. I do like the Hawks after the way they've played the last few weeks. But I'm going to say stuff you, Sam Mitchell. I think you're going to be too happy with how you won.
Okay.
And maybe the Giants get Buckley back after, I think he was 1 to 2 weeks away last week. So maybe Buckley could be back this week. Maybe fresh off a bye, the Giants could go down and maybe cause some damage.
I know I picked the Hawks, but I do put a lot of faith in a club having a whole nother week. Like they've had 14 days to work out what they're going to do against Hawthorn. It's not like a Sunday and then Thursday game.
Correct.
So, yeah.
I do think Adam Kingsley is going to come in and really just give his charges. This is what we're going to do.
Yep.
This is how the Hawks play. Let's break their necks. So I'm going to go with the Giants there. And then we go to, mate.
We could win a game this weekend.
Eagles.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Eagles hosting the North Melbourne Kangaroos.
Yep.
At Optus Stadium. If this was here.
Yep.
You would 100% lock it in. But because it's over there, you're a bit worried.
If it was here, I probably wouldn't 100% lock it in. I might say we have a better chance winning here than over there. But even without Harley Reid, the home ground advantage is huge. Bigger stadium as well, like we've spoken about. Brio being a good team at home. I want to say North Melbourne. My heart is saying this is one of North's few wins for the year. I'm going to lock in North Melbourne, but I think the Eagles will win. I think the quality of their mature age players is what carries them across the line. Our kids are better, but their mature age players are a lot better. We just got a dysfunctional forward line. McGovern is going to have 30 intercepts on Larky this weekend. So, yeah, my heart says North, but picking the Eagles.
It all comes down to if Waterman plays this week.
Yes.
If Waterman plays, then I say, Eagles for sure.
He's 50-50, I think.
But if Waterman doesn't play, I'm going to go to smoking and tip you guys to win.
Okay, cool.
If Waterman's not playing.
Yep.
And then come in next week and say, you guys let me down. All right. We then go to Saturday night football at Marvel Stadium. The St Kilda Saints are hosting the Gold Coast Suns, and the Saints fans, you can rejoice. You're going to go back-to-back. You're going to beat the Suns at Marvel, I reckon.
No. Gold Coast is going to slap them.
Slap him?
They're going to slap him.
Slap him?
Yeah.
Softly
the right king is going to win, and he's going to kick a few more goals than his brother, and it's going to be like a goal fest, and I think Gold Coast is going to win.
Gold Coast are frauds.
No.
Gold Coast can't win south of the border.
No, I think they're going to win.
Jeez.
I think they're going to dominate them, even without Moyle. So with Moyle and no Wits, I think that's going to be the toughest part of the ground. But they beat them in the back line, I think. The forward line wins. The midfield, outside of like the ruck, they beat them as well. So home ground advantage is what carries St Kilda, but I think Gold Coast win.
Wow. Coming in with some big calls today. All right, St Kilda. Good luck. All right, we get Sunday afternoon, the Sydney Swans hosting Geelong at the SCG.
Mm-hmm.
Think we're both going to go with the home side and the Sydney Swans?
Yep. I mean, we just did Geelong's predictions, and this was not a game they're going to win, and I don't think they're going to win. Like, similar to what we were talking about GWS, Sydney's just come off a bye as well, and yeah, they're going to be like, you're on him, watch his tape for the, 14 days or whatever they've had off. So yeah, Geelong going to get slapped.
Sydney don't even need 5 minutes to watch Geelong and know they're going to beat them.
Well, there's so many highlights. You can just watch like highlight reels of the last 10 years of how good Geelong's been. So yeah.
We know the playbook back to front.
Yep.
Well, they'll probably put Blixarves to tag Warner.
Grundy or something.
Or Grundy. Yeah, I don't know. We then move to, I don't want to talk about this game. We're hosting Carlton.
Yep.
We got players dropping left, right, and centre.
At the MCG. When do you play home games at the MCG?
Yeah, we do.
Well, there you go.
It's sold out. The problem is that we've got injuries left, right, and centre, and Carlton are getting players back. It's not, I do like to say, it's not just when you play a team. It's not just who you play, it's also when you play them. And I think now was a great time for Carlton to play us. They're in good form. We're starting to slow, and we're dropping players getting injured. It's going to be the Carlton very comfortably, unfortunately.
I would have loved Zach Reid to be back this week and have him versus one of the talls, because BFL form's been doing really well.
He was very well.
Unfortunately, pectoral injuries kind of killed him off a bit. I think Carlton win kind of just the injuries in the back line. Everywhere else, you're pretty even, but those backline injuries you're not going to be able to stop the two forwards.
It'll be Mackay Ball.
Yep.
Mackay on Mackay.
First time ever. Mackay versus Mackay, first time ever.
And if we bring in Saad Al Hole, then it'll be Saad versus Saad.
That'd be pretty cool.
2 Saads and 2 Mackays. Get around them. That's the real game there. And then King's birthday, big freeze. Collingwood hosting Melbourne. Geez, it's a close one, but I'm going to go with Melbourne. Even though Collingwood in recent times have a good record against Melbourne, I just think Melbourne's going to be breathing fire, as I said earlier in the episode. Does that mean they try too hard and stuff up because they're too eager? Potentially. But I'm going to say Melbourne's midfield gets the job done.
Yeah, I think it's really like injuries versus deficiencies, right? Melbourne have Lever out, a few other players, but Collingwood got, too many. And I think that's where it's really going to hurt them. Collingwood are going to rely on the young kids, and last week it wasn't great. And Melbourne, as you say, a loss that shouldn't have been as bad as what it was. They've got the bye next week. They're going to go hard and be like, cool, doesn't matter, we've got a week off.
Exactly right. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode on the potty where we have a proper footy chat. If you liked what you had to see and hear from us today, or just hear in general, if you want to listen to us on Spotify, please drop us a like, subscribe if you're new, greatly help the growth of our channel, and hit that notification bell to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the content that we're pumping out on a regular basis here on the channel. Jez, it's been so good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, nice to be back, and hopefully I'll jump on it for a few more of these in the next few weeks.
100%. Calm the Dons. We'll see you all in the next one.
North first win of the season.
Bye for now.